Hi. This has been a segment I've been cooking up for quite a while now. I've had this idea for a while, and I've been really stressing myself out about how I wanted to go about it. Did I want to make a podcast? Did I want to have, guests? Did I want to have a co-host? Did I want to make it more, streamlined, or did I want to make it not streamlined at all? And I kind of decided that the first step in all of that is just starting. So welcome to I Heart Media. I'm your host, Polish Laura Palmer, and let's get into it. Basically, the whole premise of this show is that I really love consuming media. It's one of my favorite things. I am a huge dork, and I think as a society, we need to consume a little bit more media lately. So I'm going to be the person to help you, encourage you to go do that more. Am I telling you to go watch the media I am recommending to you? No, absolutely not. Can you if you'd like to? Of course. If anything, I think you should take this show as an encouragement for you to go try and watch something or read something that you would have not otherwise picked up. And let's do it together. This is why I want to do this once a month, so it challenges me to watch something new, and it challenges you as well. I would love to hear about all of the things you have watched or read or whatever this week in the comments below. Let's get started. We have a nice beefy list of things today. Now, the first one is a weird one. It's I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson. This is a book from 2014 that I was obsessed with in high school, okay? I found this book when I was a teenager. I kind of found it when I was reading a lot of other books around this time that were of a similar aesthetic, a similar quality. Very much Aristotle and Dante discovered the secrets of the universe. Eleanor and Park. All the Bright Places. And there's like a few others in that category, but those are the ones I remember off the dome, If I were to describe this book, this era of books, I would say it's the lingering effects of John Green and the success of The Fault in Our Stars. You can tell every single publishing house at the time was trying to find their John Green. We were still kind of in the Obama era, so there was this lingering optimism in the air, right? We were in the second term, nothing's gonna go wrong ever, right? And we were okay with gay storylines as long as they were about two thin white guys getting together, The Manic Pixie Dream Girl was definitely not at the forefront in this time. We were definitely in our deconstruction of the Manic Pixie Dream Girl era. Was she completely deconstructed? No, but she was definitely on the come up. The importance of aesthetic is really important to note in this period of time. I don't really know how to put it. I've tried to write it down a few times now, but every time I don't know, I get too caught up on it because I'm just oh, books care about aesthetics. Isn't that just what a fucking book is, Claudia? But I don't know, it's something very specific to this era. And the only things I can really track down by what I mean by this are a lot of these books are very location based. The location as to where these books take place is very important and actually imperative to the plot being told to us. Objects are really important. A lot of objects are given significant power and given significant importance to the plot of the story, / where characters go. And again, I feel I'm just describing what a book is to you, but if you get it, you get it. And I think I'll Give You the Sun is a really detailed example of that, because objects and how they're crafted within the story are very, very important. The location of I'll Give You the Sun is incredibly important. The different locations that we go to are incredibly important. This book is probably my favorite from this era. I was a little too young for John Green when those books came out, and I wasn't really an author biased kid, I would say. I kind of just read whatever. I think I started with one of these types of books, and I would literally Google I read this book, what else is like this book, and I just would start reading. If I particularly liked a book, I would maybe read another one from the same author, but it didn't happen very often. Maybe I'll read the next other Jandy Nelson book, because she had a book before I'll Give You the Sun. It's There's Rain Everywhere or something like that. I don't know. Maybe I'll get into that gig. This follows the twins Noah and Jude Sweetwater through a split perspective of 2 separate times in each of the twins' lives. It is the post and pre-death of their mother. Yeah, that made sense. Also, it's not a spoiler that their mother's dead. We, get that reveal in, the first, 10 pages of the book, so calm down. We follow Noah when their mother is still alive, and he is planning on applying to an art school for high school, which has kind of always been his and his mom's dream for Noah. Jude, on the other hand, is the twin sister. She is rebellious, she's the party girl, and she's not necessarily the favorite of the family, and she definitely kind of feels that, especially in comparison to her brother Noah, who's their mother's favorite, so to speak. Noah falls for a neighbor boy, and this is kind of brings up his story arc, which is about his confusion about his sexuality, his complicated relationship with his sister that we see time and time again in the narrative, and his parents' impending divorce. So little Noah's going through a lot. Meanwhile, in post-mom death, we get 16-year-old Jude, who is now our protagonist. And it's very interesting because we see what she used to be like in the perspective of Noah. She used to be this, popular girl, this risk taker, all these things. But now she is deathly afraid of everything since their mom died. She wears huge baggy clothes to essentially hide herself from the world. And she doesn't have any friends. The only people she talks to are her grandmother's ghost, her dead grandmother's ghost. So clearly normal, chill, well-adapted young woman, And then in the second part of the book, it's really interesting because we see Noah through Jude's eyes now. And in this future, this 16-year-old Noah, he has a girlfriend. He's given up his artistic conquests, and he avoids basically talking to any member of his family as humanly possible. And it's really interesting because the book sticks with me still because it feels like a puzzle that the audience is given to solve, essentially. Everything is intentional in the book. The book has really flowery language, and I think you can initially really put that as oh, this book is trying too hard to be quirky. It's a little cringe, whatever. But everything that is said is actually really intentional and does come back in the narrative, which I think is really fascinating. It's really cathartic to see everything come together in the book, as this one comment I got pointed out by Internet Intellectual. This is probably silly to say, but it was one of the first books I read as a young teenager that made me feel trusted by the author. Yeah, I can figure this out. And that's the perfect way of describing this book. It's the first time I read a book as a child, as a teenager, where I was trusted with the narrative. And I thought that was really important. And obviously I related to Jude or whatever, but we don't need to talk about that today. It's not relevant. Rereading it made me realize how good we had it, book-wise 10 years ago, which, by the way, when I made the realization that, that era of my life was 10 years ago, kill me. No, I'm just kidding. I love being old. I can't wait to be an old, disgusting hag of a woman. I can't wait to live in the woods in a little cottage and eat children. It's going to be great. Reading it made me realize how good we had it, book-wise, 10 years ago. It feels like we've gone back a lot, especially, I don't know, in terms of representation. A lot of these books were cringe, and a lot of these books were written by white women, and they were about, little white boys kissing each other, but there was a genuine and earnest effort being made there. Meanwhile, I feel like most of the popular books I see on TikTok that are advertised to me, I don't know why they're advertising to me, but they are for some godforsaken reason, are about men who are 6'5" and evil, and they have and they're a fascist or a demon or something, and they fall for a teeny tiny little woman who's a teeny tiny little angel baby, who is sold to her or something. I don't know. I'm also totally generalizing, and I'm sure there's a lot of great content made for the young adult audience out today, but I don't know, the kids are reading porn, you know what I mean? This is what I was reading, the kids were reading porn. There has to be something here. Well, I was reading porn too, if we're gonna be so honest, but I was reading that on Archive of Our Own. So, is that better? I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. My review of I'll Give You the Sun. Next, Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. So, I don't know about you, but I've been on Hunger Games TikTok. I actually have never read the Hunger Games series, and I don't really have any intention to, for a multitude of reasons. But I have been really, I like the movies, okay? I like the analysis. I think it's fun. I think it's interesting. However, I think a lot of people are paying a little too much attention to Hunger Games. I think this can't be your only source of dystopian fiction. You know what I mean? When I was a kid, I wasn't obsessed with Hunger Games. I was obsessed with The Handmaid's Tale. I read it in the 12th grade. It was like the book we were studying that semester, and I became obsessed with it. It was like all I wanted to talk about ever. I consumed the book. I reread it multiple times. I was in love with it, which I just think is really funny because that just like goes to show you something about me. It's like, oh, Claudia, do you want to read this like young adult fiction that like, yes, is like very much about fascism, but is also kind of like fun and entry level? Or do you want to read like this really sad story? And I was like, great, cool, awesome. I really loved the book. I didn't really like the show at all, I'm going to be honest. I liked the first season, but I think ever since the first season, it has just become a cash grab, if I'm going to be so quite honest. It is profiting off of the fact that women will be subjugated, so they always know they can make another season of the show. I do believe Handmaid's Tale is a very important book. I know that there are very white feminist elements to it, and I can discuss that at further length at another point, but I do think, like, as a story, it is a really important singular narrative that is very important when we talk about speculative fiction. But this video is not about this. This video is about Parable of the Sower, which eats Hunger Games, eats Handmaid's Tale, in my opinion. And my opinion is right, always. That's the rules of my show. I am always right, and I will never be wrong. Just kidding. Okay, preamble over. Let's talk about Parable of the Sower. I consumed the 2 books in the Parable of the Sower series, Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents, within 2 weeks. I audiobook listen to these guys. I like audiobooking some books because I think some books lend themselves well to an audiobook experience. And in my opinion, I think Parable of the Sower was really perfect for that. I think stories with a really strong narrative focus are really great audiobooks. I think books that are more like introspection don't do as well audiobook-wise. Also, like, for my girlies with dyslexia, get on your audiobook grind. What are you doing? I don't want to say one book is better than the other because one book guessed the future better than the other, because that feels really unfair. Like, you're wrong, bad book because you didn't time travel, Like, what does that even mean? However, Parable of the Sower is terrifying because it's so close to reality, and a reality that we are, like, nearing towards every single day, that in the book, when they're reading, like, January 2nd, 2023, I literally feel myself breaking out into hives. I don't want to spoil, because if there's anything you should take away from this video is that you should read Parable of the Sower. That is my recommendation for you. If I'm going to prescribe anything to you this month, it is that. But here is like my general description of the first book. The other thing, these books are incredibly dense, so the description I'm giving you here, I don't even think does these books justice, because you really, like, every single thing I'm implying, there is so much about each thing, and I find it so fascinating, and I could, like, talk your ear off about. And I'm going to, right now. The story follows Lauren Olamina, who starts the book as a 12-year-old girl, and she ends the book at 18 years old. The book is told through her diary entries, and then we get these small excerpts from this thing called Earthseed, which, as we read the story, we find out what it is. We are introduced to this post-apocalyptic word, but I use that in, like, the easiest of terms, because what I find so fascinating about this book is that, like, it's not that far from reality, and yet it is so distant. They are essentially living in a, everyone defends themselves, everyone, has to defend their household, everyone has a gun, because if you do not have those things, people will come to your house and rob you and kill you, and you will have nothing left, right? However, there is still a semblance of sanity in the book. Sanity, I use with huge quotations here. Like, they're living in this barbaric system, but there is still this, like, pretending of normalcy, which I find so interesting because, like, how could you not describe right now as a time where we are living in barbaric times, but with the semblance of normalcy? Lauren lives in a gated community. I'm using air quotes a lot in this section. I don't know. Let me chill out on those. She's living in a gated community, but that literally just means there's like a few houses in the area and there is a huge iron gate around them. They essentially live like in an early 1900s society. They have limited food, limited access to food, limited education, and there is the threat of outside attackers that is always looming. Every household has a gun. Everyone is expected to travel in packs. The children are taught how to use guns because if not, you will get killed. Do not leave the gated community because the assumption is if you leave the gated community, you will die, right? Oh my god. Sorry. You know when you have like an invisible hair on you and it just drives you up the wall? Oh my god, I got it. They do live better than the people who live outside, and there are other communities like them. So there's kind of this idea that there is still a semblance of society. Lauren is educated. She has, access to books. There is a computer that she has access to. Her father, when he is not preaching at their Baptist church, which there is one church in the area and he is their reverend, he goes to the local college and teaches there. But when he's going to go teach, he has to leave in a pack of people because if they leave solo, they will die. Lauren is very quickly adultified in the narrative. She is the oldest of her siblings, and she teaches at the school. She's described in the book teaching in the school like as young as like 8-9 years old. She also takes care of a lot of the children in the neighborhood, and again, she's described that she has been doing this since she was like a very small child. And while she is doing all of this, she is also creating her own religion called Earthseed. And again, I don't want to spoil the book because I think you should read it, but by circumstances, she is left to her own devices at one point in the narrative. She has to go find community, go find safety again after she presumed that she had that. Again, this idea that even though her whole society is on the brink of collapse, her neighborhood was still holding on to some level of normalcy. And once that was taken away from her, it really switched things for her. She lives her whole life with constant threats of death, destruction, and seeing the true horrors humans are capable of when brought to their lowest. And yet, she always remains hopeful. Lauren is the most interesting character that I have read in a very long time, that I have read about in a very long time. We are told right away that her mother is dead, so that's not a spoiler. And her three brothers are her stepbrothers. And her stepmother, Corey, is with her reverend father now. She has never known her mother. The twist of the book, and again, it's not really a twist because they explain this in like the first 10, 15 pages of the book, is that Lauren's biological mother was a drug addict. And not to get too much into specifics, but there's the specific drug that is going on, that is like circulating in America at this time called pyro. And it makes people crazy, but it's also a little bit of propaganda. But, it's a lot of different things happening there. However, one of the things about pyro is that if people who consume pyro have children, that child will have hyper empathy. So when they say this, they mean that like when and they call them feelers, they call them givers, they call them a lot of different things. When a empath sees someone in pain, they feel their pain. They physically feel it. So, for example, if Lauren sees someone getting shot with a gun into the abdomen, she will feel the pain of someone getting shot, of someone shooting her. So she will be completely out for the count. If she feels someone getting slapped, she will feel it. So you can imagine how much something like that would really hinder you in a world like this that is all about violence and destruction. And also the fact that you can't hurt anyone, because if you hurt someone, you will feel their pain. Crazy. The other thing that's like very relevant to the story is the religious angle that everything takes. I think they especially go into this in the second book, but for example, her father is a Baptist reverend. They call him Reverend Alamina in the book. And even though she grew up in this very, religious household, she has kind of been developing her own religion, Earthseed. It's essentially this book that she has been writing that has like the tenets of Earthseed. And the main things that the book discusses, and they say this time and time again as the book goes on, is God is change, and if you are a believer, you have the ability to shape God. Now, this is a very radical concept in a world that is constantly changing, but to the people's detriment. So, it's a hard sell, but she truly and wholeheartedly believes this with her whole chest, which is really, really fascinating. It's also really interesting because there's never like a point where she just, oh my God, this thing happened to me and I have to create Earthseed. She has always had this in her. And that's what I find so interesting about Lauren, is that she's a character that never needed radicalization. She kind of just always was like this. A lot of protagonists in these dystopian books kind of begrudgingly accept the reality they're in until something sets them off. Katniss, for example, she has never known anything but District 12, so how is she to know that there is a way to rebel against it, right? Or June from Handmaid's Tale, she has seen a life before Handmaid's Tale. However, she has been beaten down so severely that she is aware that there is quite literally at this point in the narrative nothing she can do because the government is just so all-consuming. Meanwhile, Lauren has always envisioned a better life for not just herself, but for the world around her. She has always envisioned that there is a greater purpose to everything that is happening to her. It's through her hyper empathy for sure, but I also believe that she would have a similar resolve if that was not a part of the story. The book is about the distant future, but again, these books were written in the 2000s, so like their distant future is now, LOL. And because of that, most of the characters are a person of color or mixed in some regard. Again, like she's kind of alluding to this idea of like a hegemonic society that we're allegedly getting. For example, Corey, her stepmother, is Mexican. All of Lauren's siblings are half Mexican, half black. Meanwhile, Lauren is black on both sides, and she is regarded as such. She is treated like a young black girl in the narrative of the story. She is adultified by every person in her life, especially Corey. Her relationship with her stepmother I find so fascinating and really devastating, to be quite honest, because it really shows that like no one has ever actually truly cared for Lauren. You know what I mean? No one has treated her like the young girl she is. And you see this the most with her stepmother. Once, when she's out on the road, she disguises herself as a man to comply with the scary black man stereotype so she can avoid sexual harassment. Though she's, as we see through these two examples, treated as a threat, but also as an adult, she's not taken seriously by anyone around her initially. Race is a large topic of conversations in the book, especially as the book goes on, because as we go, we hear more about they're starting these company camps. You can work in these company camps, which turn into labor camps, which turn into slave plantations. And of course, there's large racial elements all throughout that part of the novel. Lauren, being a black woman who has an immense amount of empathy for the people around her, is not just a figurative act, not just through her hyper empathy. It is through her knowing oppression. And the fact that she never turns cruel. She never turns evil because she literally cannot be cruel. It's so brilliant. It's so brilliant. I want to spoil these books so much to you. I want to just fangirl about them so bad. If you've read them, leave a comment. I'll kiki with you down there. The second book is insane and has so many real life comparisons that it's actually kind of bone chilling. Don't read these books if you're in a bad headspace, but also read these books, you stupid idiot. I'll elaborate on the second book maybe another day, but all I'm gonna say, read them. My review: we are out of the book section of this conversation and we are on to the television section. Ayo! Now, this was an interesting month because I had two obvious conversation topics I could have talked about today. White Lotus or Severance. And I was really debating between the two because I love both of them a lot. However, I decided on White Lotus. The reason for that is I think anything I can say about Severance has already been said, to be quite honest. Like, what, I'm in love with Mr. Milchek? Like, what else do you want from me? Like, hello, fork found in kitchen, sky is blue. Like, yeah, we know. We fucking know. Duh. Travell Tillman. You've charmed me. You've really charmed me. I decided on White Lotus because I believe White Lotus needs my defending. To be quite honest. Oh, White Lotus is boring. I don't care. I really don't care about your opinions on something if you cannot sit through a 45-minute episode of television where no one is being bludgeoned. Sorry. White Lotus, at the end of the day, is about colonialism. That's always what it's been about, and I think a lot of people are forgetting that because it's just not as obvious as it is in the first season. Each season goes about it differently and talk about different aspects of colonialism and how they have penetrated our world, and specifically these resort places that we go to each season. Season 1 talks about power imbalances, and again, I think talks about colonialism the most, intentionally. Every single character in the first season goes through some kind of power struggle, power imbalance, and it's really fascinating to watch how, interwoven these all get. Season 2 talks about kind of like the myth and the story, right? It shows these characters who are going through storylines that we have seen time and time again through shared stories, through mythos. Stories of lust, stories of deceit, stories of tragedy, right? And they're doing them walking through these areas that used to be the apex of, Western civilization, right? They're walking through the Roman Empire, talking about stories that have been said in these exact places time and time again, but these places are fallen, and these places are now just tourist traps, right? Not crazy. And season 3 is all about spirituality, which is such an important aspect of colonialism that I don't think we talk about enough, and I think not enough people are getting. Each character in the new season assumes they know what they want / who they are going into the season. The show challenges their notions of that. The dad, who is, to be honest, my favorite character, every time he's on screen, I'm giggling. He kind of is coming to terms with the fact that his old life is over. He takes time to essentially grieve this, and we see it episode by episode. He starts this journey by denying it, by, avoiding all confrontation about it. He then is trying to salvage what he has left. He's trying to see what he could possibly get back after all of this, what he can do to give back to his family. Then to numbness when he takes his wife's lorazepam. So good. And now he is, in the last couple of episodes, he is starting the acceptance process. And I'm curious to see what is that going to resolve into? Is that going to resolve in him killing his whole family? Which, let's be honest, a lot of men in his position do. Murder-suicide, favorite rich straight man activity. Is he going to just move to Thailand and make his family live in Thailand for the rest of their lives? Maybe. Is he going to just go to jail, go back to America and go to jail and leave his family financially destitute? We'll see. We'll fucking see. The 3 blonde women are another crowd favorite. They all crave something from the other while defending the decisions that they have made about their life previously. None of them will ever be satisfied as friends due to the fact that they will stay in this loop of self-satisfaction. They always have someone to badmouth. They always have someone to talk shit with. And there's always someone who is about to go do it right back to them. It is self-indulgence, but it is also deeply unsatisfying. The balding guy, guys, I'm not telling you any of these characters' names, and I don't care to know them. The balding guy, when he has the conversation with Sam Rockwell, is kind of a really good focal point of the season. It's a really good thesis, and I really hate how a lot of people just really bogged it down to, isn't this crazy? It's all about American spirituality and how Americans / the West goes about spirituality. It's about this consuming of it, right? It's not just as simple, and I really don't like that a lot of people are pointing this out as, oh, he wants to be a woman. His language is very specific here, and it goes down to something very important. He wants to be an Asian girl. This man wants to leave America because of all of the shady shit he has presumably done, and he is going to this new country, and to kind of numb himself of it, he is going and taking advantage of the sex workers in Thailand, which is a large industry in Thailand. It's a very colonial mindset. Go to a country, brutalize its people, take advantage of its people until you have become the country, and then set up a church. And here's the other thing about White Lotus. I don't care about the murder. I'll never actually care about the murder in White Lotus. You can't make me care about the murder in White Lotus. The murder will happen. That is factual. The murder will always happen. I don't care about it. If you are watching the show to discover who did it and who will get murdered, you will be disappointed with whatever the results end up, because it will not be as fantastical as whatever you made up in your head. The scenes of these characters interacting with these perfect dialogue, with this like exceptionally brilliant dialogue happening right in front of you, is what the show is about. I think the whole point of White Lotus is like it is a closed text analysis. And then once you watch one closed text analysis, you see another, and you get to compare them, and then you blow it all up and you see the overall image that's being presented to you. I think that's what makes this show so brilliant. And I think a lot of people forget that every year when a new season of White Lotus comes out. So they're just like, who the murder? Who the murderer? Shut up. Shut up. Anyway, this is my review of White Lotus. And our final piece of media that we are going to be talking about today is a movie. And that movie is Anora by Sean Baker. Now, this one was a controversial one. Controversial in my head. Because here's the thing. I only watched Anora this month. Did I not watch it when it came out? Yes. There's a multitude of reasons for that I'm not going to get into today. I know you should be surprised. I'm surprised. I'm a complex human woman. You would think I would love and watch this movie right away. I wanted to. Things happen. Life happens. I don't know why I'm acting like you're mad at me. You're not. You love me. Florida Project was a movie that like really stuck with me, and I was really kind of emotionally in tune to. I don't know. I just like kept thinking about it for days after. I decided to kind of keep an eye on Sean Baker after that because I was really interested in the stories he was telling. I also really liked Tangerine. I watched that after. I thought it was a very poignant movie, maybe a bit too focused on aesthetics, but still overall a really great movie. I think I'm gonna watch Starlet tonight. That's like one of his movies that I'd never watched, but I just like read a description of it and it looked really interesting. Who knows? Maybe it's bad. We'll find out. I'm always interested in directors who have like a very specific vision, who you can tell like are really focused on one kind of story. And I'm always really interested in that because I love like a narratively driven director, and I love seeing the different ways that they go about that narrative. Especially if that director is interested in the stories of women. And when I say that, I don't mean that in a like, why are you interested in the stories of women? Or, oh my god, you're interested in the stories of women. No, I mean a neutral why. I would like you to explain to me why. Sean Baker, I think, is really interesting when he talks about his female characters because he's kind of talking about like the underbelly of women's stories, the underbelly of like a side of women that is talked about a lot but is never like the focal point of the story. His characters are not likable, they are not kind, they are not smart, but they all have like a very distinct, quiet dignity about them that I find really, really fascinating. And I don't, I'm interested in. Listen, I know a lot of you are going to be mad at me because I'm not like more mean about Sean Baker, but I actually really like how he goes about his female characters. I do very much think that someone like Sean Baker, it is a slippery slope. He could very easily go down into the world of just making showgirls, essentially. Being like, oh, aren't I edgy for making a movie about women with their boobs out and they're getting brutalized? It is a slippery slope. However, I try not to be too judgmental of men who make movies about women because I don't think it's very fair. I don't think it's very fair to think that women are the only ones who can make stories about female issues. If anything, I think it's very important that we have movies that are about women that are done by well-respected male directors. This is what I think about when I think about David Lynch. Because David Lynch, when he came out with Blue Velvet, he was very scrutinized for the way that Isabella Rossellini was portrayed in that movie. So much so that people thought that, like, you know, how could a woman possibly say yes to this role? And Isabella Rossellini had to be the one to be like, hey guys, I actually really loved working on this movie. I actually felt very safe, very respected. And David Lynch, I knew I was in good hands working with David Lynch. So, you know, I'm a grown woman and I know what I'm doing. Thank you. So, all I'm going to say about that is I think our criticisms of Sean Baker, they're a little much. However, I will say in regards to that, have an intimacy coordinator. What are you doing? Intimacy coordinators are not just for the actors, they're for everyone involved in the process of filmmaking. I want to make sure the craft service people are comfortable too, okay? It creates an environment. If you do not have an intimacy coordinator, that is ironically very similar to the situations that women in sex work have to deal with. And this is a movie that is talking about that. And, you know, that's the irony of it all, right? However, despite all of that, I am glad I didn't listen to too much of the conversation around this movie before I sat down and watched it. I do really like going into movies blind and then after the fact doing my research about them. It was just so fascinating. It was like this terrible tragedy folding in front of you. This young woman, she's my age, which I think really like shook me because I watch it and I'm like, yeah, oh my God, I would feel way in over my head if any of the things in this movie happened to me. I've been in situations where obviously not this has happened to me, but situations where I have felt like I am too young to be making the decisions I am making right now. I am in over my head. The people around me are taking advantage of me because they know I am younger than them. And this was exactly what that movie felt like to me. She is a woman who has presumably lived her whole life her whole adult life in the sex work industry. We see these small glimpses into her everyday life, and I really love them because it shows that she's clearly depressed in her day-to-day, but, you know, that's the thing about jobs like this is they, you know, can kind of crush your spirit. However, they are extremely monetarily helpful, especially for someone who, again, who has worked their whole life in the sex work industry and has no other insurance, nothing to fall back on. It's an addictive thing. So you can fully understand why she would say yes to getting married, but as an audience member, you're like, don't do it. Don't do it. You know, but you can't even blame her. And the minute he asked her to marry him while his like eyes were glazed over and he's like this little baby boy in the bed, I was like, God damn it. This isn't going to end well for her. This is not going to end well for my girl. And it didn't. Crazy journey, devastating ending, beautifully done. I should buy hair tinsel. That concludes the regular part of this segment. Now, here are some small things this month that I have had joy in. Lost. I love Lost so much. I'm going to talk about Lost in another video, probably, because I have every single opinion about Lost you can ever think of. Meet Me in St. Louis. It's a movie with Judy Garland. I watched it because I was like, you know what? I love a musical. I love Judy Garland. This is like a classic. Let's watch it. Why was that the most boring movie I've ever seen in my life? You know when you like see a clip of a movie online and it's like the only clip from that movie you ever see online and you're like, oh, this looks really good. I should watch this movie. And then you watch the movie and you realize the only reason people use that one clip is because that was the only interesting part of that whole movie. That's Meet Me in St. Louis. Why was Meet Me in St. Louis propaganda? I did not need St. Louis propaganda. I'm never, like, watch it though for Judy Garland. She's beautiful in that movie and she has the voice of an angel, but like, you already know these things. Like, I don't need to tell you anything else. I've been reading Beloved by Toni Morrison this month. I haven't had a lot of time to read because I've been like insane this month, but it's a really good book and it makes me cry and I really like it. But I'm not done it, so I can't give you like a full review of it. Maybe I'll give it to you next month. We'll see what happens with my life. I don't know. I'm really interested in going out into the Toronto band scene lately. Maybe one of these days I'll give you bands that I recommend, but right now I have none. I just encourage you to watch media, but also go out and live your life, because that's how you make media. Oh, other thing that I've been thinking about this month, my gaydar is so off. I have thought 2 men in my life this month have been gay, and then they both weren't. Well, one was bi, but I thought like I was not an option for either one of these men. You know what I mean? So I think I need to reevaluate some things. The other thing, I ran into an ex and I had no recollection of him. Like, I literally didn't remember him. We had a full conversation and I was like, oh, this guy's talking to me like he knows me. Interesting. I'm just so charismatic. Fully. Anyway, and the final thing that I've been thinking about this month, and I think about every month, is my David Lynch mug. R.I.P. to my king. You're my light, my love, and everything I aspire to. Cheers. So that's the end of iHeartMedia episode 1. Please like, subscribe, comment, all those things. Tell your friends. If you have been watching or listening to or reading anything this month, I would love to hear about it down below. If you have any recommendations for what I should watch, read, or listen to next month, please let me know. I'm open to anything. I'm also open to like music and albums and stuff like that, but we'll see. And I will see you next month.